Chanukah Sameach.
Chanukah Sameach.
And Chodesh Tov.
Chodesh Tov, Chodesh Tov.
Chanukah Sameach.
I will try to give you a couple of points.
Come in.
Eric, can you mute everybody and make people help with the sound?
You know, I'm sure, let's ask everyone to mute themselves. It's a bit quicker.
Okay. So Parshat Vayeshev is actually a beginning of our exile to Egypt. Something that caused our people to come to Egypt, to Mitzrayim. And we see small pieces, events, and in life, many times, you say things happens. You have to realize that nothing just happens. It's something that was a plan. And we are just not even realizing that we are falling into the plan. Let me explain to you what I mean. Abraham. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, it was just some background noise. Harav, just a point that someone pointed out. When you referring to the Chumash, can you just tell us which pasuk and which perek you in so that we can follow along, please?
Usually this is what I do. When Abraham had a vision, just let me find the Brit Ben Abtarim. Hashem said, no, Yadat, whether I think it's Perek Yudat, 1 second. Anyhow, Parshat Lech Lecha, somewhere which I cannot find the right. Oh. In chapter 15, Hashem had a revelation to Abraham, and on verse 13, 15:13, he said to Abraham, "Know surely that your seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. And also the nation whom they shall serve I will judge, and afterwards shall they come out with great substance." So this was said to Abraham, that in 400 years that your ancestors will be strangers. In other words, they will be in a place not them. This was meant Mitzrayim, in Egypt, and they will be there for 400 years. They will be serving there and be afflicted. As we know, this 400 years, actually in slavery, it was only 210, but this will come to it when we come to Egypt. But what I'm trying to say, that when you read the parsha that we read on Shabbat, Vayeshev, we see without the people that were playing it, not realizing that in fact they are fulfilling this plan that Hashem told Avraham, your children will be strangers in another country. So through this is the beginning, the parsha Vayeshev, when there was conflict between Yosef and his brothers, and then they wanted to kill him. This is a different story, which obviously, although that was a plan to come to Egypt, but we learned a couple of things. Terrible was the relationship between Yosef and his brothers. And as a result of it, if you remember the story, that they want to kill him, and afterwards Reuben said, let's throw him into a pit. And then he was sold to come to Egypt. And then when he was in Egypt, he was in his master's wife, the mistress, wanted to have a relationship with him, and he did not. He withstood the temptation, and she blamed him that he was trying to rape her, and he was put in jail. And in the jail, he met the two officers of the king who dreamed, and he was solving the dreams. And this is the result. Afterwards, I became coming to Paro, to the king, and which later, the coming parsha, became a vice king. So all this were a chain of events which are connected. This is what the point I want to stress. In life, you see little incidents. Long time, it takes a long time when you look back, you realize that was not just pieces of events, it was a plan. And as the Rebbe said, if he wouldn't go through this, they would have gone to Egypt. Even the brothers will not fight with Yosef. They will come to Egypt, whatever the case is, because this was a plan which Hashem told Avraham. So I'm saying the lesson for us, to be able to see all events, to realize nothing happened, just happened. There is something behind this happening. This is God's plan. Okay.
Harav, can I ask you a question?
Sorry?
Can I ask you a question? Something that just entered my mind. Do you think that Abraham told Yitzchak about this revelation? Because perhaps he told Yitzchak that we're going to go in another country and we're going to be slaves. Yitzchak wasn't allowed to leave Eretz Israel. And if he would have told Yaakov, Yaakov also would have shown reticence to let the boys go down to Eretz Israel, to Mitzrayim. So maybe they knew about this.
Yeah, but even Yaakov, he didn't want to go to Mitzrayim. He was like forced to go to Mitzrayim because of the events. So at the time, you actually don't know that there is a plan. At the end, when you look back, you see there is a plan. And so in our life, many times, we really don't realize what happened. You look back. I can tell you of my own experience. I never, which I said many times, when I grew up, I never ever thought that I will marry somebody not Israeli. And when we got married, the plan was that we are in Israel. We bought a flat here to live here. And we were a couple of years here, and then we were forced, so to speak, circumstances, to go to South Africa, because God wanted me to be in South Africa. And you can see how things happen. At the time, you don't realize it. So we learn more and more how to understand life in a better way, in a deeper way, rather than what it seems to be on their face. And brings me a similar point, which to do with Hanukkah, which we are celebrating now. Hanukkah, what are we actually celebrating? We're celebrating, this is what we say in our davening in Al Anisim, that the Greeks wanted the Jews to assimilate, to forget about their religion, to accept their culture, was a fight, and the few, as we say in the Al Anisim, that the few won the war against the multitude, I mean, the righteous against the wicked, etc., etc. You can think, well, they were stronger, maybe Hashmonaim, they were more, had more brains how to fight. How do we celebrate it? Okay, it was in the davening, but we do it with the lightening the Hanukkah candles. Why? Because at the same time, when the Hashmonaim were victorious, they managed to go to the temple which was desecrated by the Greeks. And as you know the story, they had to light the menorah, the candelabra in the Bet HaMikdash, in the temple. They didn't find pure, uncontaminated oil, only little tin, which could last for one night. And a miracle happened, that it burned for 8 days, right? This is why we celebrate Hanukkah 8 days with the lighting on the menorah. You know the story from kindergarten, I'm sure. Now, this was a miracle, an unnatural thing, that a little tin of oil should last for 8 days. There is an obvious question. The Bet Yosef, one of the ancient the one that compiled the Shulchan Aruch, Rabbi Yosef Karo, asked a question. Why do we celebrate for 8 days? The miracle was only 7 days, because for one night, they had enough oil. So why celebrating for 8 days? There are hundreds and hundreds of answers. I think somebody compiled a book, brought all the answers, I think there are hundreds. But there is one answer that I like, and this is connected to our discussion. When they add the miracle which this little tin burned for 8 days, this came to realization that even the first night that oil is burning, it is also a miracle. What we think that this is a natural thing, the oil burns. We don't realize why oil burns. What is, yes, there is certain ingredients in oil which are burning, but why these ingredients are there? Because God created it to burn. So the whole idea that we have to learn when a miracle which is come to us is an unnatural or above nature is come to realize that what we think is a natural thing, it is also a miracle. And this is one of the lessons, or one of the answers to the question, why 8 days? Because when they realize then that when oil burns is what we think is nature, is also God's do, it's a miracle. There is a similar idea in the Gemara. There was a Tana, Rab Chanina ben Dosa, and the Gemara tells the following story. I think that his wife passed away, and he just had 2 daughters. Comes Erev Shabbat, the daughter said to him, Dad, we haven't got oil to light the candles for Shabbat. He asked them, do you have water? Pour water. Whoever makes oil to burn, he will make water to burn. And so did. They poured water, and the oil and the water burned. So it's a miracle, unbelievable, water to burn. This is the deep thinking there, the deep thought, the realization that if oil burns, it is also a miracle. But this is in way of nature. So all these things need for us to deepen our understanding and realization our God is in command of the world, whether in the practical things with individuals, whether with the nation, with the Am Israel, the Jewish people, the survival of the Jewish people is a miracle. But see what happened to all this ancient Egypt, all these great empires. They are not there. Yeah, you've got Egypt, but they are not Egyptian. And so the Romans, they are not the Romans. Jewish people, this Vayeshev, the Isaiah, in one of his prophets, he says, God says, you, talking to the Jewish people, you are my witnesses that I am God who leads the world. So this is how you have to look at history. This is how to look on contemporary events. This is, and as I said, everybody in his own life to see how the world is, nature. There are certain things you don't understand. Sometimes you don't understand at the time. Later, many times, you come to understand what happened. And sometimes you don't understand, maybe you will understand in generations to come. So coming back to our parasha, the way how the story goes to Egypt is in a very strange way. As I said, Yosef was in a very bad relationship with his brothers. He had dreams, and the dreams created more of a friction. According to the commentators, they thought that Yosef going to be the chosen son, like in generation before, Avraham had two sons, Yitzchak and Ishmael, and Yitzchak was the one to continue. Yitzchak had two sons, Esav and Yaakov, and Yaakov was to continue. And they thought that maybe what Yosef is trying to share with the dreams, that he was going to be the chosen to continue. Beside the fact, Yaakov, Yosef, in the parsha that we are, he was a young lad, he was about 17. And he behaved in a very, I would say, haughty way. He came to tell stories to his father about a misbehavior of his brothers, although that he thought to try to correct them. But whatever the case was, it created a friction to a point that they wanted to kill him. Now Reuven comes and he says, why kill him? Here's a pit, let's throw him in the pit, and we'll see what's going to happen with his dreams. And there is here a very interesting point here. What did he think is going to be in the pit? Is he not going to die now? He said, why should we kill him? Let's throw him in the pit. Wouldn't he die in the pit? Furthermore, our rabbis say, although it says in the pasuk, "V'abor rek en bo mayim," when Yosef came, first of all, when Yosef went to see them is by his father's request to see the brothers, to find out how they're doing, and he went there. And again, all is directed. He came there, and he couldn't find them, right? And then he could go home. He could go back home and say, I didn't find them. All of a sudden comes a person, and he tells him he was like, couldn't find the way. Comes a person and found them and said to him, what are you wondering? What are you asking? What are you looking for? He said, I'm looking for my brothers. If he wouldn't see the man, he wouldn't see the brothers. So the whole story would be different. But it had to happen like this, because this was the plan. And when he came to the brothers, they said, the pasuk says in chapter 37, they said one to another, behold, this dreamer comes. Come now before, therefore, and let us slay him and cast him into some pit, and we will say an evil beast has devoured him. So why did they, if they said they want to kill him, why sent to the pit? So there is an interesting, important philosophical point here. One of the Or HaChaim HaKadosh says, we discussed many times one of the principles that we've got freedom of choice. We can do bad or good, it is our choice. So if they would kill, he wanted to kill, even if he does not deserve to die, they actually felt that according to law, they thought that he is actually a threat to their lives, and therefore, according to law, if somebody is threatening you to your life, you can kill. But this will be your choice. And they said, look, if we are not sure, we'll throw him into the pit. And even according to the rabbis, it says, although the pit was empty, but there were a lot of snakes there. Snakes, they don't have a choice. They act by God's hand. And therefore, they said, look, although he deserves to die, why should we kill him? Maybe he's got something in his mitigation. We throw him into the pit. And if he has to die, if this is his fate, he will die. If not, he will survive. So here a point. A person got a freedom of choice to kill somebody even if the person is not deserved to die, because it's a freedom of choice. But an animal, if the animal kills, this has to be part of the decision that came from above. You get the point? It's quite an interesting point.
Harav,
Yeah.
can I ask you about that? When you were on the Beis Din, were there times when you were in a dilemma whether you should paskin as a Beis Din or whether you should allow, Hashem to mete out, the person's fate, as it were?
Look, Baruch Hashem, that the Beis Din, we didn't have this decision to make whether a person should die or not die. We have to act according to what the halacha is. So for us, we have to see in Shulchan Aruch. If the halacha says that the person has to pay, or he has to, what other things that came to be judged, there's a very, very clear halachot how you have to pass it. But even if you're in Sanhedrin, the Sanhedrin, when they did judge people to die, that they deserve to die, so they have to do it according to the Shulchan Aruch, according to the law. This is what they have to do. Could be very well that Hashem gives you the wisdom. If he doesn't need to die, then you'll come with the wisdom to judge differently. What I'm saying is, life is a big, big riddle, a puzzle, and we are fortunate enough that we have a strict guidance from the Torah how to behave, but always we have to bear in mind, in our life, whatever happens, nothing happens by just happening. And if we had, if the Hashmonaim managed to overcome the Greeks, it wasn't because they were or whatever. God was in their side. If we in Israel won wars, whether it was the 6 Day War or other wars, it wasn't just because we are able to do things better. It's God. And we have to realize everything goes by the end of that we can learn from the parsha. Look, the parsha, when you look at it, you think, here you got like brothers fighting because the father showed favor. Yes, as a side lessons, a father shouldn't show favors to a child. That's not the right thing. It's, Yosef was wrong by telling his father, I like Alosh how the, yes, this is a lesson, a side lessons. But the big lesson is the all events that we read from this parasha until the parashot that will lead to Yetziat Mitzrayim, it is one plan that was already said to Abraham, and Abraham didn't know how is it going to happen. But God said to him, you should surely know, your children, your descendants will be strangers in another country, and they will be afflicted for 400 years. How is it going to happen? In different ways. This was a one way, which certain things didn't seem to be right behavior. But if it wouldn't be this way, we would get to Mitzrayim in a different way, because this was God's plan. And so we have to understand part of the celebration of Hanukkah, our winning the war against the Greeks was not, it was a miracle, but seems it's like a natural thing. The tin of oil, this was unnatural to teach us that to view what we think nature is also a miracle. And so it's important to go deeper to all the stories that we read in the Parshiot, what the lessons are for us to learn with. So I want to leave you with these thoughts. Again, my apologies for delaying, and I wish you enjoy the Hanukkah. Let us hope that the miracles that Hashem made with us in the past, as you say, Bayamim Haem, Bazman Hazeh, that He made the miracles in the past, He makes miracles with us every day. This is what we say in our davening. Anisecha v'niflotecha bechol yom. Your wonders and the miracles that you do with us every day. To realize, if we open our eyes, if we walk, whatever we do, it's a miracle. This is how God makes us to do. So this is really the stories of Hanukkah and of the parashot.
Shkach Rabbi, thank you.
Thank you.
Harav.
Thank you so much.
Any comments, any questions?
Rabbi, could I ask a question, please?
Yeah.
Did the brothers form a base in order to make the decision of what they wanted to do with Yosef, or was it just an emotional decision that they made?
This is what I said. This was their freedom of choice, which can be criticized. But Yosef himself, at the end, when he in the parashot, when next parasha, no, not next, in 2 weeks' time, when he meets them, and they realize what they did to him. No, this was at the end in Parshat Vayechi. In Parshat Vayechi, after Yaakov dies, and they took Yaakov to bury him in Israel, they were afraid. What is Yosef going to do to us for the way that we treated him? And it says in chapter 50, they sent somebody a message to Yosef saying, forgive their sins, for they did evil to you. They're asking for forgiveness. And Yosef wept when they spoke to him. And his brothers even went and fell down before his face. And they said, behold, against me, but God meant it for good, to bring it to pass at this day that much people should be saved alive. Now, therefore, fear not. So what is he saying to them? Try to pacify them. Although that you acted wrongly, you misbehaved the way that you treated me, but realize it was a God's plan. Obviously, he said it was God's plan in order to save you that I'll become a vice king and I can They acted wrongly. They would, if they wouldn't act this way, something else would happen. But Yaakov and his children, their fate was to go to Egypt. The ways, there are different ways. It went in the wrong way, let's say, to a certain degree, because they're the way that they acted wrongly against a brother. Okay.
Thank you.
Harav, were they actually punished? I mean, they punished themselves. They were scared of Yosef.
Well, they well, there is a proven Reuben was punished. Judah was punished. There are certain kinds of hidden kind of punishments. But look, God's, but they regretted it. You can say that they did shiur, right?
Yeah.
Can I just ask you also? Can you hear me?
Sorry?
Rabbi?
Yeah,
Can you hear?
I can hear, yes.
I want to ask. It doesn't appear that Joseph actually forgave his brothers. Is that correct?
Say a little bit louder.
It doesn't appear that Joseph forgave the brothers. Is that correct?
It doesn't appear that what?
That Joseph forgave his brothers. Yeah. He didn't forgive them.
Yosef did forgive them.
Did he forgive them?
Yosef forgave them.
Yes.
As I said, the question was, were they punished by God? There could be some, if we learn to it, but on the other hand, they regretted it, so they did shiur, so they were forgiven for that. The point is, all these stories are lessons to us to learn. What do we learn in our in the stories that we learn from them? So yes, how should treat each other, how to treat a brother. A brother should not show kind of that is, because I mean, what is a dream? That he says there are stars are bowing to me. It came true. But you don't have to tell them. You can wait when it happens. So you are just trying to create friction. Now listen, life is a lot of riddle, and we have just to learn whatever we can from all the stories about our lives, about our nation, about our world. All this needs to be thought of and to learn and to be guided by our rabbis, by our commentators to understand deeper what's happening. Okay.
Thank you, Rabbi. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Rav.
Continue to enjoy Chanukah and Shalom and good Shabbos.
Chodesh
Chanukah
Tov.
Chodesh Tov, yeah.
Thank you, Harav.
Chodesh Tov.
Thanks, Harav.
All the best.
Kol Tov.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rav.